So thank you very much. Appreciate everybody coming out this afternoon. We're going to dive right into what we're hoping to be able to accomplish here in about 20 minutes worth of time. So quickly to the agenda of items here. So we get that famous little 1-minute speech of who we are. Then Adam's going to walk us through very specifically some of the learning objectives that we have going on for you today of what we're trying to do and accomplish in this period of time. Obviously, hopefully, most of us are aware of the PCI DSS 4.0, the requirements that's specific to incident response and all the type of discussion that we'll have there. Then the big scenario. We're going to play out a scenario with you guys, hopefully be interactive. If not, I've been armed with some activities in my pocket here to beam at you, throw at you. I've gotten permission from the council to do that, so be aware if you don't participate, then there might be some activities there. So once we've been hacked, it's that oh crap moment, you know, what are we going to do? So we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do that in the now what scenario. And then at the very end, we're going to try to put together a recommendations roadmap, kind of a quick hit way that you should be able to walk back to your own organizations and start to do a little bit about that activity, right? So a quick little blurb about who we are. I think when mentioned that we're from Online Business Systems. We're a cybersecurity and digital transformation consultancy that's based out of Winnipeg, Canada, with a lot of our operations for the security aspect of it based in North America, but we're around the world when it comes to that. We do assessment services, advisory services. Specifically today, what we've been asked to do is talk a little bit about the healthcare industry, and that's why I brought Adam Kehler. Adam actually leads our healthcare practice when it comes to that, and so therefore we're going to talk very specifically about those types of services. So Adam, would you like to take care of what we're going to try to accomplish today?
Yeah, and thanks, Rob. My name's Adam Kehler. I'm our Director of Health Information Security at Online Business Systems. Today we're going to do 3 things. First, we're going to try and gain some practical recommendations on handling first steps after an incident. So what are those first things you do after an incident happens? We want to focus a little bit on communication.
What'd you say?
Communication.
Okay, communication. Good. Not interruption, but communication.
Right.
Right, try not to be disruptive. Okay, gotcha.
And we'll learn proactive ways to create the best possible outcomes for a declared incident.
So that's the whole activity here we're trying to attempt in the next little bit. So a little bit of historical review for us, right? You know, everyone should be aware of the incident response plan. Obviously, you're PCI compliant. You're aware of the specific requirement here. There's the 7 bullet points that are associated with those individual things. Our focus today is very specific. Obviously, we could sit here for 50 minutes or longer to talk about all the different steps, all the different things, all the practical recommendations for each one of those 7 steps. But our focus today is what are you attempting to do in the first 10 minutes? What's your communication? What's your contact strategies? How are you going to go about that? The next part of it that we're going to try to focus in is on business recovery and continuity procedures. Very specific, specifically in the healthcare industry, is important. Not many people realize we were talking to one of the leaders in the healthcare space, and there's some life and death decisions that could potentially impact some of that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, on how that goes with that activity. So Adam, you want to set up our scenario for us?
All right, here's our scenario. Now I come from the healthcare space, so I get to choose here. So picture this: we've got a mid-sized hospital, rural Pennsylvania. I live in Pennsylvania, so pick that. Maybe 100, 200 beds. You know, they may have several clinics, some off-site places. They've got a large EMR system, of course. And they provide several specialty services, emergency room, things like that. You're the CISO of this organization. So you're sleeping in your bed, Monday night into Tuesday. The phone rings, 2 a.m. One of your NOC analysts says you've been hacked. Not only have you been hacked, your data is being held for ransom. You know, it's that classic ransomware. Operations are shut down, can't access the EMR system, people are kind of panicking, There's stories starting to circulate. It's already hitting Twitter or X or whatever you call it now, and employees are looking to you for help. What do you do?
So that's the question to you. What's your first phone call?
What do we got?
The CIO? Okay. What if you don't have the phone number of your CIO with you? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but this is a question that we're trying to figure out. Yes? CEO. So do you have a decision criteria? So you've already assumed, right, that the CIO didn't pick up, or that your knock when they called you, right, that you validated that this is a actual, security event.
Level one SOC.
Okay, good.
All right,
what
great.
else?
So this is what we want to do here. We're going to go through this. We're going to go kind of step by step and say, what would you do? We're actually, I think we were introduced saying we were going to tell you, but I think actually what we're looking for is for you to tell us, right? We know we don't have the answers, and we want this to be a little bit interactive. So thanks so far, and we're going to keep going on this.
Yeah, appreciate the interaction, because that was the goal of our activity up here. Which what we wanted to do is not read from. I mean, I could sit here and read from the presentation. Do you want that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the Wednesday? No, right? We want to make this so that you have some good thoughts and processes of what you need to do when you declare. So we've now got your phone call. You've now realized what's going on. You've got a decision criteria, right? So have you determined that the event is actually a security event, right? How are you going to reach your command team? Anybody? Carrier pigeon? Do you have a phone list of your command team? Where do you meet? Pull out your playbook. You got a playbook? Is your playbook at home? Is it online?
I heard hospital operator.
Hospital operator. What are some other ones there, Adam, that we have?
Microsoft Teams. I'm sorry, what was that one? Microsoft Teams to people's cell phones. Great. What's the out-of-band method? Carrier pigeon. There we go. All right. Thanks, Sherry.
But I'm getting you to think a little bit about what some of those things could be and what they can't be, right? So what are you going to say? Do you know what you're going to say over here? Anybody? That you verified that's an incident. Okay, great. And
now, there's two communications plans here.
What's that?
Communications.
Communication. I didn't hear you, huh?
There's two communications plans here. One is internal, one's external, right? What are we telling our people? Because you know that people are asking them. So what are we telling our employees when patients, family members, friends are asking them, what's going on and what should we do? Defer to communications? Is that what I heard?
Has your team practiced it? Have they? Oh, great. We find more frequently that the frontline employees are not, right? So you get a call from your SOC command, CISO, you generate your command team, and yet social media, a few years back, if you've been to the PCI Council, Krebs was up here on stage talking a little bit about that. He's already posting and twitting and or Xing, I guess now. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I don't know what the verb is.
Yeah, is it still a twit or an X on that activity about a possible situation that's going on in your organization, your healthcare? How are you going to communicate to those teams? Do you have those teams engaged already? Do you have a communications team on retainer? Right? How do you do that? More importantly, to this particular audience, in the very last bullet point that you see there is, At what time do you contact the payment brands? Like, this is healthcare-related data that we're sitting here talking about today, not necessarily card payment data, right? But is it part of that same scope? What time do you act upon that? Do you engage lawyers? Do you use your general counsel? Most healthcare industry, their general, and in general, they're going to leverage their general counsel as a way of activity. Do they have cyber security experience? Do they know how to handle and act within a crisis mode? So these are some of the thought processes that we're trying to help generate with you on there. So Adam?
Yeah, who here, for thinking about your organization, who here has tested your incident response plan? I see a lot of show of hands. That's good. Maybe about half. That is critical to being able to be ready, right? You don't want the first time you go through this to have been when you're going through it, right? You want to have the opportunity to make some mistakes, refine, and go through it again. Now, again, we're going back to a hospital, right? Have your frontline workers practiced this event? Because we often do tabletop exercises, and we get a lot of executives and directors in the room, and that's important, and we want to do that. But your frontline workers, whatever industry you're in, have they practiced for this event? That's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking for a show of hands.
So going back to continuing operations, specifically in the healthcare industry, a lot of them, I mean, most of them, if not all of them, are on digital, right? So when is your organization or that particular organization has actually gone to paper? Well, they practice paper all the time, right? It's part of the incident response plan. Continuing operations is a key step. So when do you want to make the move to go back to digital? When do you want to bring that operation up? How do you want to handle that operation in the aspect? Are you using virtual desktops to actually get back into line? Is it a fresh rebuild? How do you have a temporary sterile network? Do you have that in place? How do you engage those teams to be able to put those things in place when your attack is going on? And what time do you bring those operations up? And I kind of briefly hinted at a situation earlier where, CISO, you never really think that you make life and death decisions. But in this particular case, you very well could, right? Because if you bring up that operations, that building, the doctor's office, the urgent care, the clinic, and you say, okay, we're clean, we're ready to go, and there's something that's going on that actually brings the operations down, you have patients that are there on a daily basis, right, that are looking for that kind of care. And they're looking for the executive to kind of make that decision.
Yeah, and we've talked to CISOs of large health systems who say one of the hardest parts is going back from paper to electronic, right? Because you've got all the stuff that you've collected in your downtime systems or on your paper, and you have to merge it in and do this all while the plane's in the air, right? It's not an easy thing. And the other part that we've heard is, we've got all these cloud backups now, right? Well, have people tested how long it takes to recover from those cloud backups? Because there's a pretty narrow pipe that it's coming down, and we've heard it can take, depending on the size of your pipe and size of the data, it can take weeks. So it's really important to understand how long do we expect to be down, and therefore, are we prepared to be on downtime procedures for that amount of time?
So how many people when they've done the return, recovering from operations perspective in their testing, have put that type of activity in consideration? Right? Show of hands. Like, is the return to operations, like, you're getting pressure to do that to make sure that that's there in an appropriate manner? Do you have criteria in place to know when it is safe to bring it back online?
Yeah, absolutely. RTOs, RPOs, your DR plan, it's all tied together, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It should at least match up, right? Should those criteria be able to, but then having on paper and part of that RPO theory is like, okay, when you're doing the testing of that, right, and running through that scenario through those mechanisms, that's the key decision point, right? So you want to put yourself, like one of the things we were wanting to do is kind of have like a pressure clock of like 10 minutes, like the first 10 minutes that you're counting down, right? Okay, your SOC 1 team or team's gone out and done it. We've flipped from paper to digital. Now we're going to, from digital to paper, now we're trying to get back to digital so we can get back to recovering. Have we done those steps to make sure that those things are there? So, you know, one of the things that we've put together is kind of like a little quick roadmap.
Yeah, so we've put together a bit of a ransomware roadmap. You'll recognize some of the terms on here from the NIST cybersecurity framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Right? These are the fundamentals that are the same whether you're dealing with a phishing attack, you know, any kind of cybersecurity program, but also, you know, is applicable to ransomware. Right? Ransomware is protecting against and responding to ransomware isn't necessarily something new. It's the same fundamentals, just in a bit of a different flavor. So we have put together a bit of a roadmap here. One of the things that, you know, we know, we're here at a PCI conference, right? And we're talking a little bit about healthcare. It's a PCI conference, right?
Yep, PCI.
Okay, I'm not a
You know what that
QSA, so I don't
PCI
know.
stands for?
I know how to spell it.
Okay, there we go. Good.
Better than people can do with HIPAA.
Yeah, how you spell HIPAA?
1P, 2 A's.
1P, 2 A's, right? Okay.
So
It's a trigger word for Adam. If you don't catch that, can't tell you how many times we see the word HIPAA misspelled.
But where we get the overlap here is consider there was a large health system in the past few years that got breached. 3.7 million patient records got breached. The attackers got in through the payment terminals in the cafeteria and pivoted to the patient systems. Right? So we're talking about the whole program here, whether PCI, HIPAA, that's the compliance part, but the whole security program, segmentation, knowing where your critical data is and protecting it. And so that's where we get into kind of looking at the whole picture, not just one specific part.
Exactly. And so one of the things that we do at our booth outside, or in the vendor area, we take this roadmap to the next level. On the flip side of that roadmap is a checklist, so that you can then take it back to your organization and start a checklist that goes from, hey, what do you need to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3. We all love checklists, right? So those are the activities that need to do, and this is part of that framework of how we kind of set that roadmap up. But it is the very first part of this activity is taking that step. Yes, I get it, it's the payment card industry, and this has been a requirement for, I think, version 1, right? As it's morphed all the way through. It is very key to have this type of roadmap and to test your systems and be able to test that IRP plan all the way through. So one of the things that we want to be able to do in our closing thoughts here is to look at this list of things and be able to take those 3 bullet points home, right, that we talked about earlier, the learning objectives of how to be able to do this. Do you have how do you declare an incident? Is everything a security incident? Do you have the ability at 2 o'clock in the morning to help your teams be able to make sure that that is correct? Engaging your partners, whether it's consulting firms or legal firms or lawyers or retainers or forensic firms, engage with them. It is key. If you have a law firm that's part of your general counsel, as part of the activity, make sure that they have some cybersecurity within that firm to be able to assist you when it comes to this activity. Crisis communication is very key. The very first thing you're going to be able to say is not what you really want to say. You need to make sure that your messaging is clear.
What?
Clear. Okay. Not the thing you go through the airport, okay. But clear communication, right? And it's consistent, and it's practiced, and it's internal. It's just as important as external. Continuing the operations, know when to start back. Negotiating a ransom. If you don't have a third party to be able to help you achieve Bitcoin or whatever method of payment or help you determine whether you should pay a ransom or not pay a ransom, There's organizations out there that'll be able to assist you with that. And then obviously the recovering, which would require you to drink, and which I encourage you to drink with us later this afternoon on the vendor showcase floor. I will buy everyone a beer, or the council, or us. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. I hope you gained something out of this.
Thanks, everyone.